Resident Evil. Hello everybody, my name is Sniping is Fun. I welcome you all back to the next Newcomer idea. I'm going to be doing this series, this long-running series of Newcomer ideas I'm coming up with for the new Super Smash Bros. Game, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, releasing on Nintendo Switch December 7th of 2018, the 5th game in the series, the next new Smash Bros. Game, and I've done 56 characters so far. Nintendo, retro, indie, third party, classic, whatever, I don't care. I've been doing numerous characters so far, and it's still going because there's so many ideas, so many Newcomer ideas you can do for Smash Brothers. And this time on character number 57, as I mentioned in the video with Ashley last time, we are diving back into a third-party character because I've been kind of, like I said, doing three third-party, three Nintendo, three third-party, three Nintendo. That's kind of how it worked out for the most part this time. But yeah, back to another third-party character in our first Resident Evil character. There may be more. I'm not saying first as in there's more to come. I'm saying first as in it's the first, and like so far, the first appearance of Resident Evil on this list. And what better choice I could really make to go to represent at least a Resident Evil in, Smash Brothers than with Leon Kennedy. With his, I think this is his appearance in that's either Dark Side Chronicles or it's one of the movies, like Degeneration or something. I have no clue. I forgot now when I printed it off. But yes, let's talk about Resident Evil and their possibility of Leon, Resident Evil ever getting represented in Smash Brothers. 3 separate categories, as always. Why does the character make sense? Moveset ideas, and percentage chance I can see them getting in. Now, first category. Why does Resident Evil deserve to get a character? Why is Leon deserving of being in Smash Brothers? Well, first and foremost, Resident Evil in general. Resident Evil is a third-party franchise that has long historic status on Nintendo since the N64 and the GameCube. Resident Evil 2 was ported, his original game, was ported to the N64. Without the cutscenes, obviously, but it was still a good rendition of the game for the most part. I do remember renting it, and it was still a fun version. And then, especially the GameCube, there was Resident Evil, a Resident Evil craze on the GameCube. They had the remake of the original. They ported over 2 and 3, and they made an originally to the GameCube, Resident Evil 0, which was a prequel to the first Resident Evil. And then Resident Evil 4 came out exclusive originally for the GameCube. Resident Evil has a long-standing history on Nintendo. It's one of Capcom's franchises that is very, very close to Nintendo. And then the Wii came out. Resident Evil 4 was ported to the Wii. Umbrella Chronicles, Dark Side Chronicles. Then we've had, the Mercenaries game on the 3DS, Revelations 1 and 2 on the Switch. There's now that the Steam, whatever, cloud port of Resident Evil 7 on the Switch. Hopefully they make an actual legit one day. So on and so forth. It has a long-standing history. So Resident Evil is a Capcom franchise that has a long-standing history with Nintendo and is close to Nintendo. Leon, second category. Leon is one of the most prominent characters throughout the series. He's showed up in multiple different entries. Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil 6, Dark Side Chronicles. He's been in pretty much all the animated movies. He's just been utilized in the series a whole heck of a lot. And he's pretty freaking popular. And like I said, I don't really take popularity over relevancy and recency, but he has both. He's very relevant and very recent in the Resident Evil franchise, and he's probably one of the most popular main characters in that series. So yeah, it's like he's like the most prominent choice really to include in that game. And basically the Resident Evil 2 is getting a remake, and I know they've come out and basically said it's not coming to Nintendo Switch. It's still possible. First and foremost, even if it doesn't come to it, they're bringing back a game that debuted him, which means he is still very, very even more relevant now than ever. So use that relevancy, Capcom, and put him in Smash Brothers. Second, there's still a chance he can come to the Switch, despite what they say. There's been all these developers coming out and saying the games won't be coming to Switch, and then later on down the line, games get announced. So I still see a possibility for the Resident Evil 2 remake eventually coming to the Nintendo Switch. A lot of people want it. There's a market there. There's an audience there. So it's like killing 2 birds with 1 stone, getting Resident Evil back on Nintendo, a mainline Resident Evil back on Nintendo, which hasn't happened since the GameCube and the Wii. And obviously a big marketing strategy, Capcom, a marketing strategy, Nintendo. Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. There you go. So that's reasons why I'd say Leon makes sense for Smash Bros. And Resident Evil in general. Resident Evil has a prominent history on Nintendo. He's one of the most prominent characters in the series. He's fairly popular, and Resident Evil 2 Remake is coming out, which still could happen on Nintendo Switch, and it could be a big marketing decision to include him in the game. Second category, moveset ideas. And I know this move, obviously, he uses a lot of weaponry and a lot of guns, and originally that's why Snake's moveset was censored in Smash Bros. Brawl. He didn't use handguns and whatnot. He used like the grenade launcher and mines, his CQC and whatnot, because they didn't want him to be too violent. Well, now we have Bayonetta, and she uses guns, and I know they're very anime, red, blue, on her legs, on her boots, and on her heels, and handguns and whatnot. But she still uses guns. She still uses weaponry, and I think that's opened the door more to have characters that use a little bit more gun-oriented movesets. So I'm not going to censor his moveset by much in here, because Resident Evil is about you fighting off evil, demonic, horror creatures, viruses, and monsters, zombies, and stuff with guns and weaponry. So, and that's kind of a big thing, especially for Leon. So I'm going to put that in there, just saying that it's pushing they push the boundaries a little bit with, Bayonetta. So I'm thinking the door is a little bit open for someone like a Resident Evil character like Leon. So his smash attacks, he is a well-trained close quarters combat fighter, not like CQC like Snake. Snake's just insane and has been trained since he was a kid. Even though we basically see with like Resident Evil 4, Leon's kind of become Superman and can jump through laser wires and do a lot of crazy crap now after the incidents in Raccoon City and Resident Evil 2 and whatnot. He's been trained. But yeah, he was trained by the government. He can fight as an agent. He's a trained agent for the government now. He can do close quarters combat. He can punch. He can kick. He can do roundhouse kicks. He can do a lot of fighting moves to, hand-to-hand combat. He doesn't have to rely on weaponry all the time. So that's how his smash attacks are. He does punches, he does kicks, he does the roundhouse kicks, he can suplex people, he can drop people to the ground and whatnot. If you played Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 6, especially those two, you can see how his physical close quarters combat skills are. Throw that into a smash moveset. He also is really good with a knife. So I would say make a lot of his smash attacks also involve a knife. So there you go. The special attacks. This is when we get into guns. This is when we get into weaponry. I'm going to include the handgun. He has to use the handgun. You can make it the Magnum, you can make it the Butterfly, you can make it whatever the heck you want, but the standard gun, whatever, you can pick any of them, but a handgun, Magnum, whatever, he has to use it. I'm sorry. That's one of the main weapons in any Resident Evil. He has to use it. I'm going to give him the flamethrower. I'm going to give him grenades, namely incendiary grenades, so he can set opponents on fire. But like smoke grenades, normal grenades, which Snake has anyways, incendiary grenades, maybe the machine gun, the bow gun, a grenade launcher. You can give them all these different sorts of weapons. But if I had to pick four specific, I would say the flamethrower, the handgun, grenades, and a machine gun. There you go. With maybe that possible option of replacing the machine gun with the grenade launcher. But Snake already has a grenade launcher, so I don't probably want to push it the limits with the same weapon there. And that's it for the special attacks. So close quarters combat with a knife for his smash attacks, various weaponry for his special attacks, which would include a gun, flamethrower, grenades, and whatnot. His final smash, and I'm going to pick this one because it's so iconic to the Resident Evil series as a whole that I kind of have to include it. It's the rocket launcher. And whether it's a cutscene based one or just you shooting out a rocket launcher that's like a Lucina Marth, like out of nowhere, how Lucina Marth did the critical, they just dash forward and smash someone with a critical, like where it goes and they get sent flying off stage. Maybe it's just like he just quickly pulls out the rocket launcher and then any opponent in his way gets blown up the stage. Or you can make him do like some sort of CQC, close quarters combat, trained combat weaponry type knife battle with and slacks him to the ground, and he jumps on a helicopter in a cutscene and shoots him with a rocket or something. I don't know. But the rocket launcher seems to be the main ending to practically every single Resident Evil game, especially those that have Leon in it. He ends the game, and he ends Resident Evil 4 with a rocket launcher. You end Resident Evil 2, I think, with a rocket launcher. Resident Evil 1 ends with a rocket launcher. I think Resident Evil 3 ends with a rocket launcher. It's an iconic weapon in the series. He blows the opponents off the stage with a freaking rocket launcher, and that's his final smash. Third category now. Percentage chance I can see him getting in. like I said, I hyped it up enough at the beginning. This is one of those situations, but it's not as much as me hyping up like Isaac or hyping up, Neku or hyping up anyone before I hype up Waluigi or Ridley and I just give them like a lower percent, like 60, 70%, 50, 60, 70%. No, this is a little bit higher than that, but it's in the same ball camp. It's like I hyped up a lot, but I don't see it as very likely, and it's not because of the weaponry. I don't think it's a censorship reason, because we have seen Bayonetta, we've seen characters that do stuff like that. So it's not the reason it is. I just think Resident Evil is very possible. Resident Evil is super close history to Nintendo, and hoping that Resident Evil 2 Remake comes to the Switch, Resident Evil 7 gets a legit port to the Switch, and all this stuff in the future, which will definitely increase his chances, or a Resident Evil character in general's chances of getting into Smash Brothers. But I'm giving him 65% chance because, like I said, Resident Evil is very close to Nintendo, has long-standing history with Nintendo. He's still very possible Resident Evil is still very possible to be the next franchise, the third franchise from Capcom to get into Smash Bros. They already have Mega Man representing Mega Man, Street Fighter being represented by Ryu. If they represent their franchise, Resident Evil has a possibility to be that potential character they include, the representation of that franchise. But there's two franchises I think are way more unlikely than Resident Evil, and those are Monster Hunter and Ace Attorney. Those two are even more closely tied now to Nintendo than I think Resident Evil is, at least recently. Like, Resident Evil has more history to Nintendo historically, long-standing wise, than Monster Hunter. Monster has more, history and close to Nintendo now, because we really haven't seen too much Resident Evil on Nintendo as of late, especially because we don't know for sure if Resident Evil 2 Remake and Resident Evil 7 and whatnot are coming to the the Switch. And I mean, not a cloud version of 7. And Ace Attorney is pretty much just majorly with Nintendo. So I think Ace Attorney and Monster Hunter are more likely Capcom franchises to be that third representation for Capcom than Resident Evil. But I think Resident Evil is like a good third place. It's right, like number one is Monster Hunter. And I gave the Monster Hunter a few videos back a higher percentage chance. I think it was like 80%. I think Monster Hunter makes a little bit more sense. And then Ace Attorney, because Phoenix Wright and Apollo Justice and whatever, they're all super iconic and they're very close to Nintendo. So I'd say if we got a third franchise from Capcom represented as their third character, more than likely the first place chance would be Monster Hunter, second would be Ace Attorney, third would be Resident Evil. So it's there. I'm giving it a 65% chance because maybe they just say screw Monster Hunter, screw Ace Attorney, let's put in Resident Evil. It's still very possible because of its iconic status with Nintendo. But I think Monster Hunter, they would go for more so because of its closeness now and how big it's been since Monster Hunter Tri came on the Wii. There's been numerous Monster Hunter games, and it's been super close to Nintendo. For a franchise that was super close to Sony, the PlayStation, it pretty much went to Nintendo for a whole long time, and now it's kind of battling between them. Resident Evil kind of been on Nintendo always and had a huge push, but it's kind of like always been all over the place in all three brands, so there's basically that. So it can go any way. I'm giving a 65% chance, which isn't really even all that low. He's still pretty high. And I do think if we get a Resident Evil character in Smash Bros., it probably would more likely be him. But like I said, it's competing with Ace Attorney. It's competing with Monster Hunter. And I think those two are way more likely to get a character, to be that third Fire Emblem franchise represented. And that's about it. So, thank you, Leon Scott Kennedy. Go save the President's daughter again, or whatever the heck you do in the government, because whatever, there you go, Resident Evil 2 Remake, yes. But yeah, that's Leon Scott Kennedy. Put in the comments what you guys think. Do you guys like the idea of a Resident Evil character being in Smash Brothers? Do you guys like the idea of Leon being in Smash Brothers? What about my percentage chance of 65%? Too high, too low? Moose ideas. Would it be more weapon-based, or would they have to censor it some more because Bayonetta is more fantasy-oriented? It's like, what would you do for a moveset? What do you think makes sense for a moveset? What about reasonings? Did my reasons make sense? What reasons do you think he deserves to be in or makes sense to be in? Put in the comments below. We can discuss it there. That's character number 57. And stay tuned for when we come back on the next third-party character number 58. When I jump back into the world of Castlevania, even though I've only recently just jumped out of it with Simon Belmont, for all of you out there that want me to talk about this character, he's finally coming. Character number 58 is Soma Cruz. See you all later.